Hello, everybody. This is Gazer and today just gonna go over just a couple of builds that can get you through the initial stages of Diablo for a Demon Hunter. Most of this is for in preparation of the new season that will be coming out next month, I do believe. I could be wrong. It could be at the end of this month, beginning of next month. We've yet to have that fully confirmed. Cannot wait for that, but without further ado, the whole point of this is in case if you're grinding through and you just happen to come across these sets or a few legendaries that can help you out. This is not a meta build. In fact, neither of these builds are meta builds, but they are strong enough that they can do the solo 20 Greater Rift should you need to with these sets. If for whatever reason you just don't have a good set, Demon Hunter particularly has a lot of early staged power, which typically is good for getting the ball rolling. However, eventually, unless you just absolutely love the class, you're probably going to be swapping to another class for group Greater Rift pushing, or you're just going to be competing with others, especially with Gears of the Dreadlands getting nerfed next patch. Although, I don't know how much it's going to actually affect the Demon Hunter's standing, to be honest. It'll be more of if the Wizard and Necro get overbuffed more than anything of this getting nerfed. But that's another can of worms for another time. First build is the Unhallowed Essence multi-shot build. This is just something that we've been doing for a very long time. It's very easy to build for, especially for lower stage play. As you can see, none of this is really all that great. I got a pair of Ancient Hellwalkers and Ancient Yangs. I have no socket, squirts. It's also got the wrong elemental burn type for what I'm using. But it's fine, we have that on the Wraps of Calamity. We have the fire. So, the idea here is that if this happens to be the set you get, you can actually use just about any bow starting out. Say that you get the Fortress Ballista is the bow that you have with no socket. Well, it's still not a bad bow, but it's not meta. If that's what you care about, anyway. But that's not the point of this. So you're leveling up. You have the. You manage to get the 6th set somehow. And you can rock with this. However, the more likely scenario is that you are leveling up. And you finally ding 70. And you don't actually have that great a gear to work with. You have a bunch of yellows, maybe not even a lot of pieces of gear that even are level 70. So what do? Well, for the multi-shot variant of this grind out build that I would recommend, first and foremost, I didn't do a lot of prep work for this kind of video, so I don't have a lot of legendaries lined up, but I can tell you at least what you would do. Skill-wise, things you can do. I would always recommend Evasive Fire if you were tanky enough to stand there and deal out the AoE. Otherwise, Entangling Shot, Heavy Burden, just because it increases that slow duration. Of course, you can always run the Chain Gang, to slow more targets, which is not a bad option either. If you end up having to be a Z DPS, you could do that, or if you get the Odyssey's End, you can run the Bolas. Unless they changed Odyssey's End, which I don't believe they did. Um, fact going to just double check, make sure I'm giving the right information here. It's been a while since I've been on my Demon Hunter. Let's see. No, it's Entangling Shot these days. I'm thinking of something else. Oh, I guess you'd be running Entangling Shot if you get an Odyssey's End. But that's fine. If you end up getting that, hopefully you don't get a Raven's Wing. That'd be, this is what it is. The Leonine Bow of Hashir. So if you manage to get this bow, this is good for a ZDPS build. Great CC. I just confused the two bows because, you know, I guess I'm a nub. Alright. The multi-shot you'd run would be Wind Chill. This is, again, if you're being a ZDPS. And empower another ally to do all the carrying for you, unless you're solo. Which, if you're solo, then you probably want to run full broadside or arsenal, depending on preference. I personally prefer arsenal. It pairs well with ballistics, but I'll get into passives later. Even if you don't have the Unhallowed Essence set, I do recommend preparation. Obviously, I am not going to recommend Invigoration. Probably more along the lines of Focused Mind or the backup plan. That 30% chance is just nice. 30% chance that you won't have a cooldown triggered by using your preparation. Yeah, that's good. If you, and it's both if you are ZDPS or not, because it's going to pair well with any kind of discipline user abilities, such as Vault, which is your defensive skill. At least the one I'd recommend. You can use Shadow Power, Gloom, or Smoke Screen with Special Recipe, or Healing Vapors if you really wanted to, but this feels pretty, I kind of look at this as if you need to heal with Healing Vapors, chances are that 15% healing is not going to save you. Like, if you are getting hit hard enough that your health potion alone, along with mobility, is not saving you, this 15% healing is not going to heal you. It's not going to prevent you from dying. Maybe paired with awareness that there is a chance of it healing, keeping you alive. There's a chance, but there are better options in my opinion. Now these, of course, if you want a little more support aspect, you don't have to run preparation either. Alternative to that would be Val or Marked for Death. And ones I personally like are Valley of Death. And you're not going to be the one doing the carrying, so Mortal Enemy is not going to be good for you. This, however, Death Toll. If you are beefing up another person, this could be good. Ultimately, though, Marked for Death is just a good ZDPS skill. It's 15% extra damage. And come on, who doesn't want that? This is if you're ZDPS. Another option you actually have is if you're wanting a little extra damage and don't feel like you need preparation, you can go with Sentry. You can go with the Polar Station, because then you could pair that with Call of the Week. And yeah, there you go. Or Spitfire, because it does a little more damage on its own, but I honestly feel like Polar Station is just the way to go. Because you can just drop it on an enemy and boom. Wolf Companion's pretty self-explanatory. That's just extra damage. It's just extra damage for you and your allies. There's almost no benefit more. Like, there's no more extra benefit out of the other pets. At least if you're running in a group. And there's an argument to be made that the boar be really good. The ferrets with the move speed. But I also don't really consider this one hatred per second. That seems pretty lackluster when you compare it to other things. Even the spider has something better than the bat. Basically, of all of these, the one I would avoid the most is the bat. Even if you're using like rapid fire, I would avoid this. It just doesn't offer much. Alright. And lastly, since this is a post level 70 build for grinding, Vengeance, good source of extra damage when it's off cooldown. And I'd recommend Darkheart. Chances are you're not going to need Seethe. And I mean, the side cannons, cool. They can be nice. But 50% damage reduction for over a little extra damage and 3% max life per enemy hit. Honestly, this is just better in most cases. At least from what I have seen in my time of play. Now for the perks. As you see here, I am currently using Thrill of the Hunt, Awareness, Ambush, and Ballistics. However, I also have a full set going for me. If I didn't have a set going, this would change. I would not be using Thrill of the Hunt alone. I would be using Call of the Week with Thrill of the Hunt. So we would probably not have Ambush if I am not the carry. If I am not the carry, and I'm a ZDPS build, because I personally like using the turrets, I'd go with Custom Engineering. Go figure. I would also still very much have Thrill of the Hunt on, because we're slowing the enemies. There are a lot of things in this game that proc extra damage or bonus effects whenever an enemy is impaired in one way or another. Now, if you want to squeeze out a little extra damage with that, you can throw on Call of the Week as well. Awareness is almost always going to be there. It's a second life. And if you're that weak that, you know, that you're still working on, even if you're not weak, it's still just a good perk to have. But if you're so weak that you can't really kill things alone, chances are you're not strong enough to actually take the hits as well. Meaning that, I don't know, 1 minute cooldown on a second life is not a bad deal. So I'll give an example of what a potential build could look like for ability wise. So there we go. It's really simple, really straightforward. The effects are self-explanatory. Ironically, everything just happens to be ice elements, except for Darkheart. as I'll call this the icy pop build. um, but yeah, everything here: hatred generation, crit amplification, slowing, mobility, damage amp, tankiness, damage amp, slowing, extra turret for more slowing, extra life. Basically, Demon Hunter's gearing guide for dummies. um, Now, if you want to take another route, another option, angling shots, alternatively, run Chain Gang for the more targets slow. It's still not a bad slow, it's 60%. So, in this one, you're not using multi-shot. Marked for death, death toll. Or if you feel like being lazy, contagion. This is for the lazy demon hunters. But we're gonna be an active little shadow edgelord. Alright. So we're gonna mark them, give our allies some extra healing. Boom. Makes them tankier because they're killing things faster, because of the extra damage. Means it makes you tankier too. There we go. Goes full circle. Two options here for this variant because you're gonna already have a lot of slowed targets from the entangled shot. Guardian, towers, boom, allies are tankier. If you trust yourself to keep up and not need vault, I'm gonna call you a psychopath, but hey, to each their own. You could run Caltrops. A trait that you hardly ever see used because, well, let's face facts, it's not that it's an awful ability, it just doesn't really compare to the other options on the table. However, you know, bait the trap. Become empowered while standing in the area of effect, gaining an additional 10% critical hit chance. Not hard to see why that's not a bad idea. You just walk over to your ally, go boom, do damage. And then Wolf Companion stays the same because, again, their whole point is making them deal more damage. Your traits do not change. Your passive skills. So there you go. These are just some ZDPS builds for group play. If you are alone, I would recommend multi-shot or rapid fire. More likely multi-shot because it allows for extra mobility. And, well, you know. Because you're not going to have a lot of stuff that's going to help with your hatred generation and management, fire at will. I still recommend the entangling shot with Chain Gang or Heavy Burden. Probably more Heavy Burden than, this. But you don't have to. You can go over here to Evasive Fire and run the Focus because you do have Thrill of the Hunt. This, I recommend being a Polar Station. This, either Contagion or Death Toll. Unlike in the ZDPS variant, where Contagion is lazy. This one you're actually carrying yourself, so you need a little extra uptime on your mark. Of course, Valley of Death is, again, not a bad option. That extra 15% is not bad. It's also not bad for the ZDPS variant. What I personally like doing is Contagion, though. But if you trust yourself to do it, then, don't. Don't run Contagion. Run Valley of Death. This all stays the same down here, except for this. We're running Ambush. Because, again, your polar stations for this variant are not... They're not to deal damage. They're to amp your damage. And slow at the same time. Wolf Companion, because obviously that's the best companion we have. There's very, very few options that are even worth considering. Like, sure, we can consider this for the increased elemental resistant life regen. Sure. We could consider the spider for slowing, or the extra movement speed. But none of that is really worth considering when you consider the 15% increased damage from the Wolf Companion. It's not that it's overtuned or anything, it's just there's nothing else that even compares. They're all too weak. And yes, I am calling 20% all resist weak. I am calling 10% movement speed weak. I am calling 60% slow weak. Especially when you consider that we have Thrill of the Hunt that's slowing everything by 80% for 2 seconds anyway. So, yes, none of these are worth running. So there you go. So now you have two variants of skills that don't really care about what your gear is. If you happen to come across something that works well for another set of skills, like the Chakram sword or the elemental arrow bow, then by all means use them. They're good options. This is just a general, you just hit 70, you only have yellow gear, and you're either getting carried or you're carrying yourself. Anyway, with that being said, do want to thank you all for coming by. If you like this content, please let me know in the comment section below. A like and a subscribe would be greatly appreciated. You can turn on the bell notification icon if you'd like for more real-time updates of when I'm doing videos, because here lately, due to some real-world things, my uploading has been a little sporadic, and I apologize for that. Without further ado, I've been Gazadil, and thank you for watching.